What's going on, guys? I'm Zach from the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we are introducing a new fun little thing I wanted to do where we look at the regional variants in Pokemon and try to figure out which one came first. Some of these are pretty straightforward. They actually tell you. Some of these may require a little bit of insight on our part, but overall we're going to figure these out, and today we will be doing the Alolan variants, figuring out which of these came first. Okay, so first we're going to start with the ones we absolutely know. Alolan Raichu is not the original variant. Regular Raichu came before Alolan Raichu. It's stated that Alolan Raichu came about because Raichu ate pancakes. I'm not kidding. They seriously say the reason why is because of the pancakes. But anyways, so then next we have the Exeggutor line. So Exeggutor is actually the same in any region, but Exeggutor is different here in Alola, and it's explicitly stated that the Alolans brag because their Exeggutor is the true Exeggutor. It is the original, and that makes sense. It's like the true potential of Exeggutor. You know, you have it out in the sunlight, this tropical environment. It's able to grow to its full potential, but it's not able to do that in other places. So these other Exeggutors, the grass psychic ones, the Cantonium ones, if you will, are pretty much stunted Exeggutors, and this is Exeggutor's true form. Now, next up, we have Meowth and Persian, and these are interesting ones because there's not just two variants of these. We have Alolan Meowth and Alolan Persian, and of course Cantonian Meowth and Cantonian Persian, but we do also have another Meowth variant, Galarian Meowth, and its evolution, Berserker. Now, we know that Alolan Meowth is not the original of these because it talks about how it was specifically bred to exist, so a lot like different cat breeds or even dog breeds or really any animal breed in our world, Meowth was specially bred to give us this variant. It's very likely by looking at them that Alolan Meowth was likely bred from and came from Cantonian Meowth, as it looks closer to it than it does Galarian Meowth. Now, personally, of these three, I think the absolute original, though, is Galarian Meowth. Galarian Meowth and Berserker have some inspirations of Vikings in their designs, so I think that's very possible that, like the Vikings, sailed around and, kind of were all over the map. Probably that happened with Galarian Meowth, and just it started either intentionally or unintentionally. It was being bred or adapting to these different areas and becoming the other Meowth. So if you ask me, this one we have to get a little more speculative on, but Galarian Meowth is the true Meowth. Then another thing too is it's a feral cat. Then Meowth, Cantonian Meowth, becomes the more domesticated version. And then we have, of course, the Alolan Meowth, which was then bred from the Cantonian Meowth to become this Meowth. Again, that one we have to get a little speculative on. We know that Alolan Meowth is not the original, but we actually were never explicitly told if Cantonian or Galarian is the original, but it's my speculation that Galarian is the original Meowth of these three. Now next we're going to look at Diglett and Dugtrio. So Diglett and Dugtrio is another one that we actually do have an answer to. The original, at least of these two variants, is the Cantonian. Cantonian, Diglett, and Dugtrio came first. The reason we know this is because it talks about in Alolan Diglett and Dugtrio's Dex entry how it is the steel-rich soil in Alola that caused it to eventually form the whiskers on Diglett that would then become the hair on Dugtrio. And since it says that it caused it to start to form these, we kind of know that it isn't the original. So that's not that surprising, because if you look at them, you can kind of tell the Alolan one is just the Cantonian one with a wig. So it makes sense that the Cantonian one would be the first one of these two. Another Pokemon we have the answer to is the Sandshrew line. Sandshrew and Sandslash, we know that the Cantonian Sandshrew and Sandslash is the original, as it talks about in the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon Dex entries, specifically Ultra Sun. It talks about how this Pokemon had to flee a volcanic eruption, end up moving to a snowy mountain, and so it got an ice shell that became hard as steel. So we can heavily assume that it probably was not an ice type, or ice steel type even, living in a volcano. We can assume that it was the regular one, and it ended up moving to Mount Lanakila, and thus over time becoming the Alolan Sandshrew and Sandslash we know today. Now, if you've played through Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you probably know that Alolan Sandslash and Alolan Sandshrew were version exclusives. They were exclusive to Moon and Ultra Moon, whereas in Sun and Ultra Sun, you got Alolan Vulpix and Alolan Ninetales. So, that's who we'll be doing next. Now, their dexes do not say, the dex entries for these Pokemon do not say anything about which came first. However, their pre-release information, so like the information that was revealed before Sun and Moon came out about Alolan Vulpix and Alolan Ninetales when they were first revealed, states that it is said that they came with travelers to the Alola region and ended up settling in the mountains, the snowy mountains specifically, over time becoming this form. So that information explicitly states, yeah, the Cantonian ones came first here as well. Now next we have the Marowak line, which really is just Marowak, only Marowak has a variant. Cubone stays the same no matter where you go. And this one is also straightforward for us. Marowak actually did come from Kanto. It's the Cantonian Marowak, that is the original. Now we know this because it talks about how Alolan Marowak had a hard time dealing with the grass types in the Alolan region, so it eventually adapted into a fire type to be able to beat the grass types, because as a ground type it was weak to grass types. And of course this makes sense because Cubone is a pure ground type, so yeah, it makes sense that it stayed a ground type rather than randomly becoming Ghost Fire. Alola was pretty kind to us and telling us which ones were kind of the original, but unfortunately this is the last one that they do explicitly state which one came first, and that is Grimer. Once again, the Cantonian Grimer is the original Grimer. And now it's stated that in its Sun Dex entry that a Grimer was brought in to solve a problem with garbage in the Alola region, and over time it developed this form. So explicitly stating, yeah, Alolan Grimer is the new one. The original was the Cantonian one, the pure poison one. For our last two, we have to get speculative, and I am going to begin that with Alolan Rattata and Alolan Raticate. Now, it's not stated which one came first, Cantonian or Alolan, with Rattata and Raticate. I am of the opinion that Rattata came first, and Alolan Rattata and Alolan Raticate came about by being in these urban areas, because it talks about how this Rattata and Raticate are in urban areas, whereas the original Rattata and Raticate hung out in more natural, rural areas. So, I am of the impression that probably what happened is as people were traveling to the Alolan region and colonizing it, Rattatas and Raticates kind of ended up on ships and ended up being brought over to the Alola region on accident. This is a very real world thing that happens a lot. That's actually how a lot of plagues and stuff are spread, is because rats getting on boats and, kind of spreading them on there and then going to a new area and spreading them. So likely then the ships would go to these port cities and the Rattata and Raticate would run off the ships and end up having to live life in these cities, which they weren't used to, but over time adapted to. And lastly, we have the Geodude line, Geodude, Graveler, and Golem. These Pokemon have a Rock Electric variant in Alola, while their Kanto variants are Rock Ground. And I am of the opinion that once again, the Cantonian ones are the original. Now, the reason I think this is because we learned with Diglett that the magnetic soil kind of made it start to form those whiskers, and for Dugtrio, that hair. And so I imagine where there is a lot of steel in the soil, there's a lot of magnetism, and so it seems like it's pretty possible that a Pokemon that is literally just a rock could eventually get more magnetic properties thus giving birth to the Alola and Geodude line that we have now. So to quickly recap, all of the Alolan forms are not the original with the exception of Exeggutor. Exeggutor is truly from Alola, but all the other ones, it is their Cantonian counterparts that are the original, or in the case of Meowth, the Cantonian one came first, but Galarian Meowth is likely the original Meowth. Be sure to let me know what you think of this in the comments below. I love this kind of stuff. I love this kind of theorizing of what came first when it comes to the variants, kind of figuring out their evolution over time. And while you're at it, be sure to let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Alolan form is. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications because we do talk about all things Pokemon on this channel. And that, of course, includes any variants that we get revealed for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And we'll be doing one of these for Galar and Hisui, and then later on we'll be doing one of these for Scarlet and Violet as well. Until next time, I will see all of you later.